Github Copilot has added a free tier for Visual Studio Code users, and in the last year has caught up massively to Cursor's feature set. But is it as good as Cursor? Let's find out. The first thing we need to look at is the Edit with Copilot feature. This gives you the ability to read and write from multiple files in your codebase at a time. You can even use a number of context tools, such as the hashtag codebase modifier, to automatically search and find relevant files for you. As it generates, you'll see the code
Just have to make sure my audio was set properly.
search and find relevant files for you. As it generates, you'll see the code updates stream in, and then you can review them one by one and accept or discard them all in a click. In this case, I asked Copilot to add to our admin API the ability to read and write the comments collection. And in short, it didn't do a good job. It simply didn't find the correct files or make the correct updates. This is a prompt I've seen successful pretty much every time with Cursor and Windsurf. I tried it multiple times and it never worked correctly. To make things worse, when you use the codebase modifier to pull files automatically so you don't have to manually list them as context, the search can be incredibly slow. I've waited minutes just for the search to complete. And then sometimes I just get an error and it doesn't work at all. This time
That could be, I'm now realizing that could be due to like latency, not being able to have the best connection or the latency of someone else's server. You know what I mean? All that to say the speed between two things doesn't guarantee like you gonna be getting your responses instantaneously. It could be like 1 second to transmute the information, but you could ask a question that takes like 15 seconds to generate a response to. So that doesn't mean that all of that is going to get sent in the same time frame. You kind of just fuck up the latency there. You know what I mean? And then you get the error that you're saying. So it's a lot of things that occurs when you send that text to the AI or to the server that the AI is operating on, whichever way you want to look at it as.
I'm trying a much simpler prompt, fix a bug in our existing site so that we do client-side routing correctly instead of server-side. This is something that even Devin was able to do correctly. It's never really failed with Cursor and Windsurf. And first, it's taking an eternity with GitHub Copilot. This content.tsx file has been updating forever. I actually think it's broken right now. But I can already tell it didn't do the right thing. The correct solution is just to set this no client-side routing variable to false. Pretty much every tool is able to pick that up. Yet GitHub Copilot updated tons of files and code, and it simply just completely got stuck on content.tsx, and it's in a broken infinite loading state. I was really excited to try this feature, and the UX seems pretty good, but I've been disappointed by its quality and bugginess and slowness, and I really just cannot see myself using this day to day. But hey, technically this feature is in preview, even though it's enabled by default, so maybe with a little time, they'll make this better.
Honestly, I don't see myself using Cursor day to day. I tried Cursor. I don't think it's just something for me. Now, if I'm using it wrong, please let a nigga know, because I definitely want to use all forms of AI to help me speed up the development process. All that to be said, I didn't like the way Cursor felt on the user interface side either. Just to talk to some of the stuff I wanted to talk to, I had to like jump through a hoop and an arm, and like I just didn't understand what was going on to a certain extent. Had it for a month, still never got a chance to figure it out. And then I didn't renew it for the next month. So like I don't like Cursor. I never tried Copilot because Copilot was under a paywall. But I agree with them. You know, Steve probably used Copilot and realized, dang, it's not as good as Cursor. So I may use it and realize it's not as good as Cursor as well. It's just free. I just try to stay away from Copilot in general because the integration with GitHub and everything, with, just like the data, I don't want my shit to be trained, or I don't want my information touched, bro. Like I don't like that evasive shit that they got going on. I just want my shit to be my shit. So even then, in that regards, I kind of gotta use GPT, Claude, or any LLM that I could host on the local. You know what I mean?
To me, the multi-file editing agent feature is the shining most important feature of Cursor, Windsurf, and the like. Note that I am using one other new feature from GitHub, which is you can now choose what model you want, which includes Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is undoubtedly the best model today for coding. It's what Cursor and Windsurf use by default, and I'm using it so we can apples-to-apples comparison on code generation. If you're curious if when using GPT-4o, the default model that's not in preview, if I got better results with even the simple prompt about client-side routing, unfortunately the answer is no. GitHub Copilot is still trying to update files that don't even make sense, like it's removing git static props, and it's also listing files in this working set that apparently didn't even update, so the AI regenerated this file, but didn't actually change anything at all in the file. There's no diff. So I'm honestly just hitting UX problems all over the place. I also gave the same prompt a try with O1 Mini. It's not any better. It's not doing it right, and it's just wiping out our JavaScript for some reason. I also tried with O1 Preview, and it's still not doing anything. It's really broken for me for some reason. Let's compare that to Cursor, where I like to use the agent mode by default, so I don't have to tag codebase. It automatically searches the codebase and finds relevant files. The codebase search is incredibly fast compared to GitHub, and the output starts streaming a lot sooner too. But most importantly, Cursor is actually doing the correct thing. It identified the admin GraphQL API. It's adding the models and resolvers that I need and hooking up this to the API correctly. I've had the same good results with this with Windsurf as well. Now let's try fixing the routing bug with Cursor. This one uses a smaller code base, so I really thought GitHub Copilot would be able to do this one. And Cursor does it exactly right. It finds a variable, it flips the boolean. It's a really simple fix. But hey, maybe it was unfair for us to compare Cursor's best feature to one of GitHub Copilot's newest features. Let's touch on another couple great features that Copilot.
It's very fair. I mean, you're in the game of competition. Copilot is not that good. Period, point blank. Like, get better. Don't feel sorry for it. So you have other consumers using a bad quality product when there's something that's better. Like for me, I use Cursor. I walked away from it. You kinda swayed me not to use Copilot and go back to Cursor if I want another hand-to-hand like VS Code IDE. I'm trying to figure out if I want that addition because I use VS Code, but I stepped away from Cursor, but I don't know now. I may give Copilot a chance to see how I feel with it and what it can and can't do, but I don't know really. And I don't even know if I'm going to need Cursor because it's still going to be using GPT or Claude Sonnet regardless. And I'm limited on those, I guess, prompt tokens that I have. So I might as well purchase a plan with both of those or use a Ninja Chat or a Mammoth AI that like kind of engulfs all LLMs and AI models all in one. But definitely not using Copilot for sure.
has added. One of my all-time favorite AI features is AI in the terminal. Just hit Command-I, the AI will spit out a result, hit Command-Enter to run it. Now you don't actually need to be a bash wizard to pretend you're a bash wizard. Cursor has basically the same thing, except it hijacks Command-K in the terminal, which drives me crazy. I hate that. I like Command-I better. One other cool feature GitHub Copilot has is the ability to auto-generate a commit message, which it does pretty nice by default. When Cursor generates commit messages, it can be a little bit more verbose, which is not quite my style, but it's fine. I can just delete the rest of this stuff. One other nice thing that GitHub Copilot has now is custom instructions by adding a .github/copilot instructions.md file. It's basically the equivalent of Cursor's cursor rules. GitHub Copilot supports inline autocomplete. It was frankly the OG of AI-driven inline autocomplete, and it does a good job. But Cursor takes things even further by being able to suggest inline updates to multiple lines you can hit tab to complete, as well as the standard usual stuff. You know, tab to complete works fine. Overall though, it's the composer that makes Cursor really shine. As a result, I want to do one more test to see if Copilot can compete here. Instead of taking an existing codebase, I'm going to start with something new from scratch. Let's simulate a real-world end-to-end workflow with a bare minimum codebase and see how they compare. I'm going to start by making a brand new, fresh Remix app. And I'm going to take this design in Figma and convert it to code with builder.io. I'll grab the CLI command and I'm going to paste it in the Cursor terminal. We're now generating the code for the design, matching the style and components and theme of our code base. And now I've got my beautiful design in code, and I'm going to ask Cursor to replace this placeholder with a table of users. So I said replace the table placeholder with a table of users from randomuser.me. So let's see if it can find the right location, generate a UI, including API data. All right. Looks like it did great. It found the right location and it added the table, even with a nice hover effect. Now let's try the same prompt over with GitHub Copilot. We need to manually tag that we need to include the code base as well. Copilot again takes a lot longer, and it didn't even do it correctly. It didn't even include it where it's supposed to go. Honestly, this code would have never worked anyway. It's totally incomplete. Let's try again, this time specifically manually adding the file we want that has the user table placeholder. And wait a super long time again. And thank goodness, it did something this time. It did add a table. Doesn't look quite as nice, or have the images, but that's fine. The code's also not as good. Cursor put the table into its own component and file, whereas VS Code just added all this stuff inline, which is just kind of messier. But the thing I think that's more clear to me now is don't trust Github Copilot's indexing. Always manually tag files when you want to use them in the multi-file editing interface. For me personally, I hate doing that. I feel like it's a waste of my time. I love Windsurf and Cursor's agent that I can just type things, it figures out what it needs to see, what it needs to do, and just does it reliably with surprisingly clean and functional code. Overall though, these are two feature-packed AI coding assistants. For me, I'm willing to pay $20 a month, and so I'm more than happy with Cursor.
Yeah, I'm about to drop that bag. I ain't gonna cap to y'all. Like I had Cursor for 1 month. It's me, bro. Sometimes I don't really give the AI stuff a chance because I already know I'm like smarter than it. I'm not trying to get dumbed down by using it too much. A programmer gonna understand what I mean. Like, I use it for certain things, make my life easier. That's about it. But that I might have to do it for the cursor because I used it. I just didn't know how to use like the inline command in the terminal. And even when I did, like I was doing some tech shit. You feel me? I was doing a lot of that shit, but I didn't know where it was going. Like it was updating files. It didn't need an update, at least to me. And I had to always like, I guess, micromanage. And I was a bad manager, I guess, because he did everything right. I'm just on his ass. Like, you feel me? Like, you gotta do this right. And I was using, so my toolkit was Replit, VO for the UI, UX, Cursor, and I think that was it. Oh no, Claude or GPT, Pro, one of the two. And I use all five of those to push it to the cloud on Replit, which was that's a conversation for another time because I definitely need to divulge back into that project. A little Uber-like project, but for sports. I'm gonna give Copilot the chance, but definitely check out you know what, don't check out Cursor. Go check out the AI Code King. I ain't no hater, but there's definitely free options out there. That's why I didn't do Cursor. I'm gonna do it at a time when I'm ready, but I'm gonna do like models, different models like Llama, Quen, there's DeepSeek. Like there's a couple head honchos right now trying to gun for the top. So ain't no reason to pay $20. That's what I'm saying. If you want to try it out, go ahead. But I don't, I ain't, I I rescind what I said earlier about Cursor. I ain't dropping that back. I might, but I ain't doing it now. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Yeah.